My name is Patrick Morgan. I am an actor and a filmmaker and a screenwriter. I fell in love with film by going to the movies with my dad. That was the way that he connected with my brothers and I. He liked to escape into sci-fi and action, and I ventured off into drama and all the other stuff, but every year my dad, my brother, and I would go and catch at least a couple of movies. My favorite movie when I was little was The Little Mermaid because I had a huge crush on Eric. But I think that kind of inspires my storytelling now because it's a very classical story. And I went to UGA and I majored in comparative literature, which is all about comparing different literatures across culture. And so I think it's just the way that the movie is also written is that it was one of the only animations to be nominated for an Academy Award, and it's just a really good story. I love classic storytelling, and I don't mind adding a modern twist, but just the whole art of storytelling. Like, the story is important. It's what propels people to watch and keeps people in tune. And if the story's not there, then you don't have a film, you don't have a movie, you don't have a book or whatever. I think that I always go to the tropes. Like, that's what we studied in comparative literature, is like, at the base of most stories, all stories, is just this common theme. And so if you start there, you can add or subtract whatever components you want, but most people will be able to fall into it because, like, oh, this is an Odyssey story, or oh, this is that story, or whatever. Like, you can easily fall into that narrative, and so you don't have to do as much world building because they get where the story is going, and then you can play with that. I am working on getting the Duchess of Grant Park made. It's a short film that I wrote. My friend Brandon Mitchell is directing it, and we're hoping to get it made this summer. It is about a lady who claims Grant Park as her duchy, and it kind of follows the narrative between a journalist who's investigating who is the Duchess of Grant Park and why has Atlanta fallen in love with her. And I wrote it, and I'm also playing the Duchess. My crown inspires me because it comes from a James Baldwin quote: "Your crown is already bought and paid for, all you have to do is put it on." And James Baldwin is one of my heroes. He's number one, a writer. Number two, he's a gay black man. And as a gay black man, there's not that many people to look up to. The crown and James Baldwin is because storytelling, art, whatever, is not just about me. Just like this crown shouldn't be about me. It brings attention to me, but I should use that voice and that attention to amplify other things, other stories to be told, other awareness to different issues. And that's also how James Baldwin inspires me, because all his life he fought to uplift black people, black culture, and then also he was unapologetic about being gay at a time where, in the civil rights movement, in the 1950s, in everything, it was life-threatening, and he made it work for him. I think what it means to be unapologetic is tell the stories that need to be told, and don't worry about whether or not it's going to make money or this or that or the other. Tell people stories, whether it's trans issues, black issues, women's issues. Just put those stories out there and let people be seen, because, and it sounds cliche, but representation matters. You know, just like what I talked about with James Baldwin, seeing that gay black man do it proved to me that, hey, I can go out there and I can do this just like he did. And I think we're all pulling each other along and saying, you can do this too, and you can do this. And it's just all-encompassing pulling. It's okay to be afraid, but go ahead and write it anyways. Go ahead and put your story to page, whether you are gay, trans, lesbian, bi, or whatever. Just, your story has to be told, because when people go and see these stories, they are inspired to tell their truths, and telling your truth is the most important thing you can do. You need inclusion because there's just not one narrative going around, or just not two narratives. You need stories by gay writers, you need stories by trans writers who are telling the stories that matter to their communities, to highlight these issues and to tell that so that other people can understand what they're going through, whether it's being black and gay and dealing with HIV, or being black and trans and dealing with the violence issues, where already this year, I don't know what the statistic is, but you've had a number of trans women of color who have been killed, and every day the number of African American men who are gay with HIV goes up. So you need stories that are being told about all sorts of issues. I always hate feeling like I have to justify an existence, because that's the one thing I hate doing. Feeling like there's a need to justify me, or the fact that, I like to wear makeup, or that I'm an effeminate gay man. But at the end of the day, like, I go home and I go to my partner and we make dinner together and we lay in bed and we talk about, I don't know, what we're going to do the next day. We raise puppies. It's a very ordinary life where most weekends we're going to his ex-wife's house and we're hanging out with his granddaughter and having tea parties with her and the two of us wearing crowns. It's a very ordinary life, and that is one of the best things. It's not about being these caricatures that you see in movies, because oftentimes when you do see a caricature, it's not written by the person in that community. It is written by someone who's placing their own expectations on that minority. But we're not caricatures. We're people.